Hello and welcome to the Events Podcast, where we help you build your events empire by building profitable events while having fun at the same time. So we've had a bit of a break over the summer, really since the start of the year. I was really busy with my company Apps Events during the pandemic. I talked about that on the last call with James. We transitioned to doing a lot of work for Google, running a lot of online events, doing different stuff. So I was just really busy, but I've really missed doing the Events Podcast, and we're still getting great views. We're actually a top 10 podcast, top 10% of all podcasts in the world still, which is amazing, as it's a very niche thing. But I want to say a couple of things. Firstly, if you enjoy the podcast, please get in touch with me. Most people don't give me any feedback, and getting feedback really encourages me to make more episodes. Just email me at dan@appsevents.com, dan@appsevents.com. Even better, if you can give us a review anywhere you listen to the podcast, please stop right now in iTunes, Spotify, Pocket Cast, wherever you are, and please leave us a review, if possible 5 stars, of course. Would be great. So back to the podcast. So we really focus on helping event entrepreneurs run amazing events, and that could be people who run events companies, but also just as many people, maybe more, are entrepreneurs who just run events as part of their business. They might run events to promote something else. They might run meetups. They might run one big conference a year. This is the kind of people I want to help, because I run events myself. So, this podcast is kind of like therapy for me, where I get help and assistance on how to run the event. So please leave some feedback. And secondly, obviously there's a lot of costs associated with this podcast. I've got 2 people who help me out with editing and graphics and everything else. So if you're a sponsor, possibly you're a software company, sells to the event industry, and you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, like I said, it's a top 10 podcast, 10%, I keep saying 10, please get in touch. We'd love to talk to you, dan@appsevents.com, and it'd be great to talk. So thank you very much, and now on to the interview. Hello and welcome to the podcast. This episode is a little bit different. It's a short solo episode. I haven't really done one of these before, so please let me know. Send me an email or comment. Let me know if you like it, if you don't like it, what was good. I'm actually recording this from Dubai, and I'll talk a bit about why I'm in Dubai, how long I'm here for, and what the story is. But I also want to talk today about my experiences. I've gone to some in-person events. One was actually today. I've gone to 2 kind of trade show exhibitions and 1 conference. So it's interesting. They're the first ones I've been to since, start of COVID in 2020. So I want to give some reflection on that. But first of all, why am I in Dubai? So basically, I live in Prague normally. And I made a decision I was going to come out to attend a trade show here called JES. It's a big education and technology trade show. Our company Apps Events, we're selling Google services and Google training for schools. And I figured out this was a good one to come. There's a few around the world. There's BET in the UK, which we go to every year. We're heavily involved doing stuff for Google. There's also ISTE. We're an ISTE partner. That's in America. So that covers kind of, Europe and the US. There's a few in Asia, one called EduTech, but this is a Middle East one, and we want to do more in the Middle East. So I figured I'd come, and it was over 4 days. And then I started thinking, hang on a minute. I was already honestly getting a bit sick, a bit down of Europe in general, not on a permanent basis, just because of COVID. We had sort of rolling lockdowns. And, I think if it happens again, I'm going to try not to let it bother me as much in terms of, the effect it has on your psyche of the lockdowns and worrying about getting sick and worrying about your kids. But it did get to me a bit. And so I figured out, relatively speaking, at least right now, the COVID cases are very low in Dubai, which is in the United Arab Emirates. And I figured out, why not come out, bring the family. I've got 2 young children, bring the family out, get some sunshine, do some work, and build it around this event. And that's one of the great things. Obviously, if you have a location-independent business, I'm very lucky that Apps Events is a location-independent business. So I managed to build it around. So I came out. We booked an Airbnb for about 7 weeks, and we stayed in Dubai Marina, which is, if you look at it on Google or on Google Maps, it's a really beautiful area. It's a marina, obviously. It's close to the beach at JBR, Jumeirah Beach Residence. Great connections. So, I wasn't really sure where to go because I wanted to meet some schools as well. And the schools, they're all over the Middle East, obviously. So, so we booked this. It's been great. It started off kind of badly. My wife and me both got sick. I think sinuses from the air conditioning and everything. My kids then got hand, foot, and mouth disease, which sounds bad, but is apparently quite common. So we had a sort of rough couple of weeks, but then it's been great, honestly. Kids are all well. We've been out and about doing things. And what I did here is I figured out I'm not really a work from home person. I've tried it a lot. I've got my own office in Prague, but it's just me. It's an external office. So I thought I'd try co-working. I've done a lot of years in co-working. I tried a few. I settled on a place called Astro Labs. And if you do come out to Dubai, I highly recommend Astro Labs. It's in an area called JLT, not to be confused with JBR. And it's great. The people here are really nice. I'm actually using one of their, video call rooms right now, and super nice people. Getting around this area is fantastic. There's these e-bikes, which I've always kind of, been a bit dismissive of in Prague because it's, dangerous. You can't really ride on the road too much, so everyone rides on the sidewalk and mows down pedestrians. But here, it's really good. They have these, you download the app, you pay a fixed fee for the month. You use your app, you scan it, and then you just get the bike for 45 minutes. And the locations are great. So like to get here, I just literally pick a bike up by our apartments, drop it by the co-working space. If you need to cross, like go to a metro station or tram, there's usually bike stations around it. So a great way to get around. And Dubai's been great. I've been meeting a lot of people. I've got a few good friends here. So doing a bit of sport. I've been golf, been going wake surfing. I've been meeting a few schools. I mean, the interesting thing is the meetings. It's been good, but not as good as I thought, because it's surprising how often now I'll email someone and say, hey, I'm in Dubai, let's meet. And they'll say, okay, let's do a video meeting. And I'm like, I could do that from anywhere, but I'm here. But people are kind of conditioned now, they want to do it, which is an interesting observation. I'm not sure if that's a temporary thing. I think it's definitely going to continue much more because people now are used to doing either a Google Meet or a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams. It's just a regular thing. So whereas before, I've been doing it for 10 years. So for me, since the Skype days, which was still around, I guess. So it wasn't much, but it is interesting how often that happened. So we're in Dubai. I've got 2 more weeks. Then we're heading back to Prague. Although looking at the COVID cases in Europe right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we decide to stay out here a little bit longer. But it's been nice, good socializing, good family time. But in terms of live events, obviously this is the events podcast. So when I was in London, the first event I went to, Ben, Rouse and me, Ben's my colleague at Apps Events, there's a trade show called SEND, Test Times Educational Supplement SEND. SEND stands for Special Education and Needs. And it is all special education needs and disabilities, sorry. And it's a trade show, obviously, for that topic, education. And we figured we'd do a booth, and it was my first time ever doing a booth at a trade show. And check out our previous episode on this topic if you want to get some tips. It was interesting. Very small booth. Great to have 2 people on there. That really means one of you can take a break. We didn't get that many good leads, and I tried to use some of the tips we talked about. Not be on your phone, try to engage with people without being too pushy. You don't want to be the guy who's sort of needy and getting people across, but you also don't want to be a wallflower and stand there and nobody comes to talk about you. So it was okay. What was interesting was more the potential business deals. There's a company we work with before, and maybe we can do a tie-up. And actually, it was interesting because the most useful thing out of that show was just speaking to this company, and I could have, I'm in touch with them anyway. I could have, talked to them on Skype, on Meet. But the interesting thing is just being in person, and we both got that. It was one morning early before the show started, and we were just chatting, having a coffee. And it was amazing, these kind of serendipitous moments. And it actually happened to me again at the trade show I'll talk about in a minute here in Dubai. Another company I've been working with for a while, but then we got talking and we're like, maybe we could do this together. And that is really, I don't think anyone here needs me to tell them about the power of face-to-face, but it's just interesting that these things, both of which look like could be good, mutually beneficial, deals for for me and for the other companies, wouldn't have happened, on Skype. I know sometimes people do a video call. I don't know why I keep saying Skype. I haven't used Skype for about 6 years. I've said it once, and it's in my brain now. Meet. If I say Skype, I mean Google Meet. So these these meetings are just so different. People do meets and Google Meets, and they get online and they do have chats, but and it was a big thing. I think everyone in the early days of COVID, people were getting online with their friends and having group chats and group pub nights, but I never liked it, and I spent so much of my time on video chats anyway that I got sick of it. And these wouldn't have happened. So that's a really interesting thing for someone who's thinking about attending a conference or a trade show, who's thinking about maybe exhibiting or maybe running another conference. Like these meetings, don't happen. Serendipitous meetings that you haven't planned. That wasn't the reason we went there. We went there to meet customers, and actually we ended it with, possibly a relationship. So what was it like? So it was interesting, obviously they were checking, they wanted to see your vaccination status, although, it was really a kind of theater in my opinion. I mean, they did check it, but a lot of people they didn't check. I could have just showed them a PDF. Nobody really, they did check the date and everything, but no one scanned the QR code or anything. I think it would be so hard. People come from different countries. There's all sorts of different vaccination certificates, and I don't know how you could enforce that. But people were wearing masks. The numbers, I mean, I would say, I haven't been there before, but based on what attendees were telling me, it was like 50% of normal, something like that, which was actually the other shows I've been to was similar. So I think in terms of how people behaved in the post-COVID times, very similar to normal, obviously apart from the masks. One thing that I did notice was normally the networking events are a big part of trade shows and all conferences. It's a huge part of it. In fact, one of my favorite parts. And it was noticeable that it was much less well attended. There wasn't that many people, even though again, my first show, a lot of people I know had been there before. And that was true in Dubai for the two events I went to as well. The trade shows were quiet. The big one I went to, there's a big Irish pub next to it. It's anyone who's been to the Excel Centre in London, there's the Fox nearby. Everyone goes there to meet up, and this is a similar kind of place, McGettigans, and it was just empty. There was no one in there. So people are reluctant to socialise. They're going for the event, I think, and just heading off. So that was the one in the UK, and then the one in Dubai, big trade show. It's called JES again, big kind of education technology. It's whole of the Middle East. Really interesting. Normally, I already mentioned, probably 50% of the usual based on what people told me. Normally, a lot of international schools, I work with international schools in our business, and normally a lot of international schools go there, but there was almost none there. And I think a lot of schools just didn't want to release people. And I think for people running business events, you've got to know, if you're getting attendees, the companies are sending people or schools are sending people, will they release them? And I think what happened with the international schools is a lot of schools didn't want to release people. A lot of people, so there was a few people from Emirates where we are, UAE, but actually most people were from Saudi Arabia, and it was very interesting because it wasn't really on my radar, Saudi Arabia. We've done one small event now, we've got a couple of customers there, but the interest in Saudi Arabia was huge. They had the biggest stand, the Ministry of Education had the biggest stand at the show, a lot of attendees, a lot of publicity around the fact that Saudi Arabia now allow foreigners to set up wholly owned businesses, so you can set up a business there now. And they're really pushing it. They have a tourism visa they never had before. So, again, no need to email me, no comment on Saudi Arabia. Obviously, whatever you think of the human rights issue, I'm just talking purely about the opportunities there. So if anyone's thinking of maybe a new frontier of events, it could be Saudi Arabia. It could be interesting. The Middle East seems to be booming generally right now, although, I'm slightly skeptical there isn't going to be an economic crisis, but let's wait and see. I could be wrong. Hope I'm wrong. So yeah, this event, again, similar things, people wear masks. They were a bit stricter here about checking the COVID certificates, but again, not super strict. What was interesting was they did, and I didn't really like it, but it must have saved a lot of money. They didn't have any badges. You had to download the badge, and you could either show it on your phone or you could print it. And so obviously most people, and you have to print it on A5, which isn't realistic. Most people don't have you could print it on A4 and cut it in half, but it's a lot of hassle. So most people just showed it on their phone, and they said this was to make it a contactless, experience because of COVID, and it came across as a bit cheesy. I just got the impression they wanted to save money, and I didn't think it was good because normally when everyone's wearing a badge, you can see who they are, what they're working for. Occasionally people turn it around if they don't want everyone to know, but there you can see them. This was different. You just didn't know, you didn't have that advantage of saying, you're at so-and-so school, so-and-so company, great, I know someone from there. That was really one of the main differences. Otherwise, typical trade show, overpriced food, big queues to get a meal, the usual stuff. Again, just missed out on the social side of it, I think. That's normally a fun part of events, and really it was very quiet. Not many people were going out. Second night there wasn't an award ceremony I went along to, but I actually, in that case, I was the one going out. I was tired, had to get back to the family, so I didn't do it. So today was a conference I was at. It's called edX MENA, which means MENA means Middle East, North Africa. Again, same thing, 50% of the numbers, people said. Well, it's interesting having the spaced out seating. It was strange, normally you'll sit down, and sometimes if it's a busy room, again, you get a bit of serendipity, you get to talk to some people around you. That didn't happen. You had like a meter or a meter and a half between every seat. But then again, there was a paid event next door, which was part of it, which I called into, which was all about investment in education. And there, the paid event, you had round tables, round table normally like, 2 meter wide, the big round table seating 8 people, whatever. And everyone's sitting normally. So I was like, is it just theatre? The free event had distancing, and the paid one, a bit like, it's like how airlines, you can't get a drink in economy class now because of COVID, but they'll serve you drinks in business class. I don't know if it was something similar to that. You got better seating arrangements for the paid version, but people spread out, people wear masks, and again, no real specific numbers. Also, exhibitors, all the shows I went to had reduced exhibitor numbers. Everyone said it, probably down 30%, 40% from the usual. I mean, Jess, the big one, they even moved to a different hall compared to where they normally hold Jess. So that was a big thing. I think the question is now, what obviously the thing everyone's talking about is what's the outlook for 2022. No one knows. I mean, I would have said a month ago things are looking great. We're heading for a golden period of events, but now, I'm recording this on the 22nd of November in 2021, and Europe's heading back into lockdown. I'm supposed to be going to Austria in January. That's now in jeopardy. Austria's in a full lockdown. The UK cases are getting worse. So I can't offer any prediction. I really think that people, general society view, I don't think this is anything new, is that people are going to learn to live with it. I think, lockdowns can't go on forever. The economic effect, is hard. People who want to be vaccinated are going to be vaccinated. Obviously, people are not running more of a risk, and maybe help things spread it. But that's a discussion for another podcast. I think live events are going to take place now. I think definitely that they've started. I don't think people are going to stop. The question is, are they going to be sustainable? Because obviously, if you're running at a hotel, you're paying your DDL, your delegate day rate. If you're running a trade show, you're paying the exhibition centre. Are they going to be viable economically? And that's what we're going to see. It's going to come back eventually for all the people that work in events and had a tough time. I feel for you. It's affected everyone. Good times are going to come back. I hope they're coming back soon. If not, they're going to come back in 6 months or, a year. But whatever you're doing to get through, you'll get through it, and then we'll all be meeting in person again. So that's the end of this chat. Let me know what you think. It's the first kind of, maybe I've rambled a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what I've been doing and the events I've been to. Recording a great chat with someone called James Schramko. He's been on the podcast twice, and he's a really interesting guy. I'm talking to him tomorrow. He's talked about his own events, but tomorrow we're going to get into how to run membership communities, which is a lot of interesting thing for all entrepreneurs, how you could create a paid or free membership community and build your community. So thanks for listening. All the best, and go out and host an event, and let's start meeting in person.